What about the world we both believed in? What about the word that made it so? What about your blood boiling creases? When you're just aching for her love like you could blow. You're like a broken record that turns and turns and turns again. You're like a broken record. It's what I am. It's what I am. What about the road less traveled? What about the chances we would take? What about the dreams we unraveled? What about the bright and shiny future we would make? But like a broken record, turns and turns and turns again. You're like a broken record. That's what I am. It's what I am. Will the circus come to my town? Will it pass me by? If the clown would take his mask off, tell me would he cry? You're like a broken record. Turns and turns and turns again. You're like a broken record. That's what I am. It's what I am. It's what I am. It's what I am.
Oh, this poor shaving horse living out in the barn. Good thing it's a shaving horse. Yeah, we're getting, if you can't tell from the opening footage, we are really working on getting ready to stand some more stuff tomorrow. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, but we've got to rive some pegs out tonight. I've got some square blanks, and I'll show you a little something if you're riving pegs. Now, you want your grains to you don't want a lot of grain run out on these. Unfortunately, with a lot of these, you get that swirl right at the end. So probably what I'll end up doing, I'll point this end, and this end will be up. See how nice and straight that is on that grain pattern? Same thing on this side. And if you look in, I don't know if you can see it on the end grains, but they're all nice and straight. So when I go to pound this in, this point, pardon me, this point will go well past the other side of the timbers, and it'll end up getting trimmed off anyway, so I won't have any of this grain run out right there. And all I do is I'll start them like a one by one square stock, but you got to be kind of careful because it will, you don't want to go too small, but you don't want to go too big. And really probably the best thing would probably be to just split them out of a log yourself. I'm going to choke up on that a little more. Been a while since I've been on the shaving horse, if you can't tell. A little more foot pressure on there. I need to put a piece of leather or something in that. And all I want to do is kind of nice when you're starting your peg blanks like that. All you really have to do is knock the corners off. But be careful you don't go too far. You want to really engage the pieces you're putting these into. So I end up with a bit of an octagon. There's one. All right, folks. So, been using this for making pegs tonight. Very, very happy with it. Very happy with it. I actually like it better than my regular draw knives with the sweeping handles, the ones that go straight back at you. Actually quite a bit of control for what I'm doing with it. I mean, it's a lot bigger too, but actually did a very good job. Edge is holding up really well. I have not sharpened that edge since hitting all that dirty bark with it that you guys saw a couple of videos ago, and that makes me really happy that it's holding an edge like that. Now, there are some things with this that I will be refining. I've got to get some more hammers. The ones I have are kind of big, and you know, it's a cross peen hammer. the one you guys saw me forging this with, but it's kind of rough. It leaves the hammer marks it leaves in there are quite deep, so I think I'm gonna get a couple different ones for that, just so the hammer marks, I like the hammer marks in them, but I want them a little less indented. I'd like it a little smoother. I want it a little more refined. And that's the thing, whenever you're trying to do anything, you're trying to improve upon what you're doing every time you're out doing it. Like every joint I cut in this building, I want to try to make it better than the one before. And I tell you, I can really tell the difference between the joints I cut when I first started doing this to the ones I cut now. There's no comparison. And you get better at it, you get faster at it, you get more accurate with it. And that really helps a lot. It's no different making tools or anything else like that. Every one you do, you learn some kind of a lesson on. And being handmade, things like that, being forged by hand or something like that, every piece you make is just a little bit unique. It has its own character, and that's because it's not something that's mass produced. I love, it's a big movement in this world going on right now that a lot of people are wanting to get back to more traditional practices, more handmade things like that. I mean, it's kind of a niche right now, but there's more and more people getting to where they want to be able to do that again. I mean, you see how many blacksmithing channels there are on YouTube, how many people doing timber frames now you see on YouTube. And I base a lot on YouTube because that's usually my social media of choice. Having a channel and spending so many nights in front of the computer editing, there's a lot of things I miss on here because I just don't have time to watch. There's a few channels that I'll watch religiously when I can. If I have a moment or it's raining, the weather's not good for doing this, I'll binge watch a few of them if I can fight the kids for the TV on days like that. But it's a really cool thing to see this kind of stuff making a comeback. It's neat for me to see that so many people have an interest in this kind of thing. I mean, that's just awesome. I'd love to see these types of things make a comeback where people could make what they needed by hand with very few tools. To be honest with you, to build this barn, I could do this whole thing with a hand. I mean, I'm not talking milling the timber, obviously. I'm talking cutting the joints and things like that. I could probably get away with 2 different hand saws, a ripping and a cross-cutting saw, a couple of chisels, like a 2-inch and an 1.5 inch, and I hardly ever use the 1.5 inch on this project, but that's because of the size of the timbers. Smaller ones, I would probably need to use the 1.5 inch more. Corner chisel, you don't have to use it. I hardly ever use mine. I don't care for it that much. Kind of a waste of the money for my way of thinking, because I use my 2-inch chisel for just about everything on this. Slick is really nice to have. I still appreciate the viewer that sent me that. That thing's really nice to have. But I'm getting off track here. But you can build something like this with just hand tools if you wanted to. It is doable. It's going to take you a long time, but so what? You know what I mean? Sometimes a good quality building or a good quality project is worth the time it's going to take for you to do it by hand. And it's funny, you get used to using hand tools a little bit more. And I'm not a purist, obviously. You can tell I'm using a chain mortiser and a drill and things like that. I'm not sitting here with a brace and bit, and I'm not sitting here with a boring machine. I'm using power tools. And some people don't like that, some people don't care. But for my way of thinking, it's what I have to use, and if I have it to use it, I'm going to have it. I'm going to use it. And I'll tell you what, the carpenters and timber framers and cabinet makers of 200 years ago, if they had the stuff, they'd be using it too, I can tell you that. But that being said, there is just a different feeling and a different quality that you get when you pick up a hand tool and you put that in wood and you get a result you really like. It gives you a whole new appreciation, and I feel it makes you I think it makes you a better craftsman, a better woodworker, if you know how to use those tools and use them proficiently. You look at the old Windsor chairs that they used to make, the colonial design. Most of those, like your backs, were hand rived out of whatever straight grain wood they had. They were hand rived and they were steam bent. The little slats that went in the uprights, those are all hand rived. The the seat of the chairs were usually made out of white pine, and they'd use like an in-shave to carve that out, you know, and that's neat. Yeah, it's a slow boat to China, but that's pretty cool stuff they were able to do that. It's amazing. You look at some of the colonial woodworking, you look at even some of the stuff from the Middle Ages in Europe, just, it's amazing. The trims, the moldings, stuff like that that they did, and they did it all with hand tools. It is amazing. It can be done, folks. You can do it. You know, I see comments once in a while, yeah, I'd love to have a chain mortiser, but I don't have the money for one. You don't need one to build something beautiful. You don't need all that fancy stuff. You can do it. It's gonna take you a little time, but you can do it. So that's my little sermon on hand tools and craftsmanship and things like that, and for tonight. But tomorrow's gonna be a big day. We're gonna be putting up hopefully 2 beds tomorrow. You saw early on opening up of the video today, you saw where we put some timbers up there and kind of starting to get ready for that. So it's supposed to be much nicer tomorrow. It was pretty cold out here today. It was in the 20s with a good stiff wind today. So I'm looking forward. Tomorrow's supposed to be closer to 50, so it should be a really nice day for doing this. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I will catch you on the other side.